Welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast, or welcome if you're new here. This is a space where ambition meets embodiment, where soul meets strategy, and where we don't just talk about transformation, we explore who you have to be to truly live it. Today's conversation is one I think so many women need, because somewhere along the way, many of us became incredibly capable. We've built careers, raised families, support everyone around us, check every single box society tells us should make us happy, yet quietly begin feeling disconnected from ourselves. And it's not because we're not successful, but because somewhere in becoming everything we need to be for everyone else, we stop asking who we are. My guest today has spent more than 5 decades helping women rise not just professionally but personally. Joan Burge is the founder and CEO of Office Dynamics International, an entrepreneur, speaker, best-selling author, just to name a few, and someone who has dedicated her life's work to helping women lead with courage, confidence, and authenticity. So today we're talking about what it truly means to find your voice, not just by becoming louder, but becoming more fully yourself. Joan, welcome back to the podcast. It's such an
Hi,
honor to have you again.
thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I'm just thrilled that you asked me again and wanted me back. Yay, because there's so much more to talk about since I saw you and this whole red lipstick thing and what I've been witnessing with women after like 6 months of holding virtual book clubs around these topics and mastermind courses and just really touching every facet of a woman's life. And oh, there's so many struggles and challenges.
Well, I'm so excited to
Oh,
have you here, and you already know kind of how I like to arrive. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to invite you and the listener to take a breath with me. So just gently place your feet on the floor if you're able to, if you're wanting to, that is. Relax your shoulders, close your eyes, and release any tension you might have in the jaw. And we're going to take a slow inhale through the nose for 4, hold for 4, and slowly release through the mouth for 6. Again, inhaling for 4, hold for 4, and release through the mouth for 6. Just allowing yourself to become more present in this moment. So, before we get into everything you've been building and creating, I just want to ask what is actually bringing you joy in this current season of your life?
wow. Well, the joys just started to occur, and I'm going to be real honest because this is what happens with us. The first 5 months of this year were not real joyous. I had a lot of bad news swirling around me with friends and family and things going on, and I wasn't having the passion with work because I had come off a big high, and then it was like just coming back and doing kind of the same thing, and I just felt like I was in this limbo state, and it just started to turn a few weeks ago. I mean, and so this is what happens. This is the reality of what happens. I mean, last year I was on such a high all year because Red Lipstick came out, the book, all the merchandise, then we were rolling everything out. I was so excited, and then boom, life happens, things happen. So what's now like bringing me joy finally, just the last few weeks, is really getting engaged again in my main company, Office Dynamics International. We're really getting into a new world with AI and how it's affecting and impacting the workplace. And so for me, whenever I have this new space of wow, I need to learn, like this is wonderful because I have so much to learn, but also them being able to pass it on to others in the workforce and what does this all mean and how it's changing our lives so much. So to me, I've got that passion and excitement of learning, and then I want to share it with the world, of course. My red lipstick has really been bringing me joy in terms of I finally got my course recorded. I mean, that was something I wanted to do early this year, and I had to keep pushing it off and pushing it off. And finally, it's here. It's that moment of I'm doing it. And my heart's so in what Red Lipstick's all about, right? So that reignited my passion and my fire. So that's bringing me a lot of joy. And then just always what brings me joy are my friendships. Being with my friends, my inner circle, my girlfriends. I keep that up on a regular basis, and family. So that always brings me joy, making time for family and friends. So there are some exciting things now going on, getting that spark going again. Because I can't stay stagnant for too long. I don't like being in limbo for long. And that successful women don't like that, right?
No,
Really.
absolutely not. And I love how your answer actually brings us to the fact that you really are in an alternate season where, because I think a lot of times people still like to default to the everything's just going to go in a straight line pattern. And unfortunately, life has its ups and downs. So it never is actually linear. And so we go through these moments where life might be, lack of a better term, kicking us in the butt.
Yeah.
And then it's like climbing out of that and getting back to a place where we're more grounded and more centered in what it is that we're bringing forth and just the relationships that we have. So I'm super excited about your answer and just I can relate.
Yes, the ground, really quick, that grounding piece you mentioned, because I've really, again, had to actually consciously work on that, because I was getting to a low point, which it happens, it does, and those are real feelings, and that's something we sometimes we don't talk about. I talk a lot about authenticity, and I'm very open and I'm very real with my feelings and what goes on in my life. And it's very easy for me to say, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm hurt. And that is something a lot of people, women, they feel it, but they can't express it. And we have to attach a name to the emotion. I've learned that, and I've also been talking to a few different therapists over these past few months, about emotions. And this is something too that, wow, like so much has exploded with the red lipstick work since we talked in December, because I've delved into now even more facets of it, branching off from the book. And so really getting into emotions. Like for women, we have a lot of emotions and we feel so much more than men do. I mean, and it's real. It's real. And so I've been doing more research on that. And there's times, like I was even asking myself, like, maybe this is a bad thing. Maybe this is bad, to feel these low periods. And then just learning that, no, it's good when you can identify with the actual feeling, because then you could work through, what do I need to do, and that's where we could take that leadership and be courageous. And so there were a lot of tools, that I had learned in the past that I pulled forward. I was doing my gratitude moments every morning, reading. I was reading my my spiritual books too, getting myself solid in the morning before my day started. The other thing I did that really helped me too, because I was in the middle of navigating the storm, I did 30 days of words navigating the storm. Like, what do we need each day to navigate the storm we're in? And so that actually turned out to be a beautiful thing, because I was putting those words out there for the friends who had been affected with negative, really bad stuff. I mean, losing a brother, losing a sister, these kinds of things at young ages. And so I was putting the words out for them, but they were for me as well. So every morning when I posted it, I was also telling myself, this is what I need to navigate the storm of life. And then the second phase, I went into stepping back into life, because at some point we've got to step back in, and how do you do that? And it's okay to have joy again, and it's okay to be happy, and it's okay to laugh again. So it's been such a journey, Anita, since I saw you last. It's been part of, I guess, my research and experiencing it myself, so I could really even talk to women with it on a deeper level.
Do you think that the high achieving women that you work with oftentimes are so disconnected from their emotions just because they're so focused on their outcomes?
Yes, I think because when we're high achieving women, I've also learned this. I was studying and reading about high achievers. So high achieving women, successful women, we also need to have that busyness around us. We need to have that goal. We need to be able to achieve. And so a lot of times, most of us, we are busy. We're in that mode of getting that goal out there, seeing that. How do we reach that goal? How do we get that goal? How do we make it happen? How do we overcome the barriers? How do we overcome the obstacles? And then we're so busy too, wearing all these hats as women. Maybe a mother, you're a sister, you're a daughter, you're a grandmother, you take care of everybody, you're a partner maybe. So then you've got all that busyness going on. And so, you know, yes, when we're not, and then when we stop, it's like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. So successful women, high achieving women, feel it almost more than people. It's like a lot of people, and it's not a bad thing, operate here. When you look at the norm, when again, I've been in the workplace 53 years, but then you have a small percentage, 25, who are operating up here. They got that vibrational high energy. So when they don't have all that going on, to keep them up there, then they sink actually farther. So that's harder to do. But we get so just caught up in everything, and maybe we're not really also pausing to think, what do I really want at this stage? And the other thing, Anita, everything is changing so quickly in our world. It's just crazy insane and a lot of it has to do with AI and the amplification. And so it's making us have to go so fast, but but wait, I got to stop. I have to put the brakes on and really determine, where do I really want to go, or am I just being sucked into all of this because everything's moving so fast? But is it really what I want? And so it's hard for us to pause. I think a lot of people get uncomfortable with pausing a moment, take a whole week to really figure out and assess where have I been the first, several months of this year, the past 6 months, and where do I want to head? And is it really what I want? So, and that's hard, that discipline ourselves.
It definitely is. And I think that's what I find so often in my work is telling a woman to pause. It's like, you want me to do what? Slow down? And it's like the concept of having to slow down a little bit to get reconnected. So
Mm-hmm.
then you can actually come from a more authentic place rather than what you think you should can be
Mm-hmm.
such a almost break in the system, especially for those of us on the Western society where it's like we are kind of trained in this like go, go, go mentality. So it's almost kind of this like cross dimensional of like you need the wellness, but you also need to be able to navigate
Mm-hmm.
the speed and the momentum.
Oh, exactly. And that's something else, too, that in the recorded course, I have a whole module on energy management and that's something I've learned for quite a while, and I value. So I talk about 5 pillars: and career, family, financial, spiritual, and wellness.
Mhm.
And my Big Life book that came out several years ago after my husband died, that's where I kind of initiated that. But the Red Lipstick book, each chapter is built around one of those pillars. And I might very deep personal stories, everything from my brain surgery to my open heart surgery to my heartache to, my encore years, to everything. Um, and going through all of that. So wellness is critically important. And I think that's one thing I really want women to understand is you've got to manage your energy. If you want to do all these things and your big dreams and you want to be there and be everything to everybody, but you don't need to do that either, really. But if we want to, it's the energy that is so important, mental energy and physical energy. So I think a great sign of maturity, whether you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 80, maturity in your wellness pillar is really saying I have to actually manage that energy. Like I could go, 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 but now I know I need 2 days of just chilling. Like I go to sound bath classes, I go to Reiki classes. Like I know how to really measure if I've been on the go, like this week, stuff like just crazy between work and then every night I've got something going on. And I actually just signed up for dance classes. So I just know, this weekend's got to be quieter. My body has to rest so it can then gear up for the next, launch. So that is something that is not talked about very often. And yet for us to run all day long, and we also have information overload today. We have decision fatigue today. So it's, when you're that powerful woman, let's say, or want to be more powerful within yourself so you can do all the things you want to do and fulfill your dreams and whatever that is, we really have to look at, are we truly managing our energy, or is everyone managing? Are you just running, and running and running? So you have to make that. That's where you take the leadership, right? That's where you're bold. That's where you're bold about your life and you set those boundaries, because by taking those rests, you're going to just skyrocket on the next thing you want to do.
Beautiful answer. And then I'm curious, now that we've gotten to like titles and achievements, and by the way, I love that you do the sound bowls and the Reiki because I do sound bowl sessions. So
Oh, you do?
I do. Actually,
Wow.
that's one thing I was doing with the grandpa prior to his
Oh,
passing. I would
that's
do sound bowl ceremonies for him.
oh, how beautiful.
But
They're wonderful. I could fall asleep after a while. Sometimes I'm totally
and
out.
George sometimes during too.
Yes.
So I'm curious though, pivoting a little bit.
Yes.
Underneath the titles and achievements, what have you found that women are actually searching for?
They're searching for trying to figure out life. They're searching they feel very disconnected. First of all, that's what women tell me. They feel a disconnect.
Mhm.
They're moving along in life, but they don't even know why they feel their disconnect. And that's kind of what I explore with them. But they're searching for, I think, purpose within their own life. What's their purpose? What's the meaning of their life? Because again, they are so busy wearing all their hats and just playing all these roles. And even the accolades, even if they get all kinds of awards, they're still not real happy. And that's because that isn't what makes us happy. So finding what's your purpose in while you're on this planet, is kind of what they're searching for. They're searching for how do they build their confidence so that they know how to have the conversations they need to have with others. So they know how to set boundaries. And that even leads to then how they manage their households. How do I better manage my household? And my kids are, teenage kids step all over you today because they've got these attitudes, so they're searching for that. They're searching for, depending on what phase they are in their life, what do I want my next 10 years to look like? They want to be authentic, be their authentic self, but there's fear of, but what will others think? I'd like to show up this way, but what will people think of me? How do I do that? How do I just really be me? Some don't even know who their real self is. It's like, who am I really at this stage of life? They're searching for, I think, validation as well. Somebody to validate that There's nothing wrong with you when you start running around like a crazy woman. Just validate that. My feelings are real
Yeah.
and they're okay, and I'm not crazy, okay? Just validate that fact. And I don't need you to tell me what to do. I need you to listen to me, okay? I don't need your answers. Just would you listen, please?
Yeah.
Feel my emotions, um, but also being validated, for the tremendous work women do. And I mean, work in all facets, not job work, right? I don't think so many people just don't understand what women deal with. And then on top of it, all the unless you've lived in this body, I always say you don't understand what it's like. You know, Only women could relate to each other and know what it's like to live in our bodies and all the changes you go through. So they're looking for, yeah, inspiration. They need inspiration. They need a coach. That's, again, I'm leading a group through my Big Life Mastermind group. It's 6 months. It's a 6 month journey. Every other week we meet for 90 minutes. It's a small group where I'm into my fourth session right now. And we uncover everything. It's like I'm peeling
Onion.
an onion. And when you get down into the hurts they really have, or what they're holding on to from their childhood, or this or that, whatever that might be, or they're actually struggling with their marriage, but on the outside it looks good to everybody else. So when you really peel all of that and you really get to it, then you could start to heal. You can start to have a plan. So that's the other thing, is to have a coach or someone who understands, but also who's going to also hold you accountable. I think that's the other thing. For us, if we could have as women, if we can have some people, some other female friends who hold us accountable to what we say. Because the other part is we might believe something, we might say, I really believe in this and I really want to do this, but then we have all the naysayers around us. A friend will say, well, do you really think you should do that? Do you really think you should make that move? Do you really think you should take that big of a leap? Or parents say, well, really, I don't know. You have such a nice house where you are. Why would you leave? Why would you go somewhere else? Or your kids, I don't know if you're really capable of doing that, really. You're going to go zip lining. So then we say, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I can't. That's a stupid thing. And so that's another big piece of it is we have to so believe in ourselves. And that's where women need a lot of help. They're fabulous. Women have so many, great ideas and they have their dreams. They really do need that inner circle, I call it. Who's your inner circle? Like really taking a look at your inner circle, because your very best friend could be the doubter, the naysayer, and have negative energy, and you don't want to be around that. My inner circle is not like that. They have trials, they have tribulations, they have hardship, but we lift each other up all the time. We encourage each other. We're cheerleaders for each other. And that sisterhood, which I also have a talk about sisterhood in my book. Like it's so important that we come together as women.
Beautifully put. I definitely agree. In the whole going through the tough seasons, it becomes a very big anchor of who can I rely on that's not going to necessarily A, judge me, or B, stay with you in the pit in the sense of they add to it
Yes,
versus
yeah, exactly.
lift you up from it. And I think, especially when you're dealing with big transitions in life, whether that's grieving a loved one or going through just grieving a job loss, whatever the case is, we have these different variations of identity loss as well.
Yes.
Where if you're not conscious of who you're surrounded with, whether that is a mentorship group or a circle that you do outside of that, I think it can be very detrimental, for the lack of better words. And it's like, if we don't know how to properly anchor ourselves in the right community, a
Mhm.
bad season can turn into a bad year.
Yeah, you are so true. And again, the last several months I was going through that. Like who do you listen to? And then do you have the courage to say something if you don't like what they're saying? That's the other part of it that you have to be able to say to someone, I don't want to talk about that anymore. That's it. End of conversation. We're not going there. And that's where we have to be brave and set those boundaries and again our own thinking, right? Like, all right, I'm not talking to this person anymore about this particular situation because
Hmm.
they're not getting it and all they're doing is making me feel worse. No, so I think we have to be selective too. I think in knowing our circles too, who you can go to talk about this particular thing, who I can go to talk about this particular thing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's kind of like you don't want to have the wrong voice in your ear, is the way I
yeah.
would put it, because I do know that there's certain conversations I have, and it's funny because my mom always says a lot of times when I'm making a big decision, I like to get the advice of a few select people
Mhm.
of what they think or how they would do it, especially if they're a little bit older and they have some generations on me. But
Sure.
then at the end of it, I usually am the person, once I've made up my mind, risks and all, I will end up being like, okay, come hell or high water, even if God comes down himself, I am not going back from this decision. And she's like, it's kind of like this like thing that I'm proud of because it makes you bold. Whereas when I was younger, if I had this moment of I've made up the decision, but someone could come in last minute and tell me, no, you should do it this way, I would change my mind.
Yeah,
Whereas once you've made it, you're kind of set.
yeah.
And it's just an interesting thing when you think about intergenerational dynamics and how we kind of like swap.
Uh, oh, yeah, that's right.
But I'm curious, do you think that women lose themselves overnight, or is it one small compromise at a time?
Yeah, it is small, the drift, as I call it, drifting away from things. It's very rare. It happens overnight unless something really devastating happened to someone and then they've really lost their confidence and have been shut down or shot down. So I find it more of a drift. It starts with one thing, and we give into this, and then we're always here for that person, and then we're always there showing up for that person, and then we're showing up for someone else, and then we're listening. All these little subliminal messages throughout the day. And so yeah, it's a very slow drift until then maybe it does come out in the way we don't want it to, you know um, where we get really stressed or where it'll show up frustration or you're not as patient with people or you're getting mad about something yet you're really not mad at that thing, you're really mad at this person over here but you're taking it out over here or you're overeating or you're, and I talk about this actually in the training I've been doing for 35 years on self-management versus stress management. I call them the caution lights. Actually, this works well here. So the caution lights are what are the physical, mental, behavioral things that are happening that don't typically happen to you, like if you're not sleeping at night, you're more edgy, or you're overeating, or you're undereating, those types of things. I call them the caution light because to me that's a yellow light that's telling us you better pay attention to this and you need to do something about it before it gets to be a red light. And then that's the danger zone. You totally crash. And women do that. I mean, it happened to me in 2018. Everything hit so hard at once. Like I lost 3 men in my life who were very near and dear to me in 5 weeks. It just like it was bad. And then it was something after that, and I just like couldn't even get my head above fast enough. So that was a major event, that really showed me that crash quickly, like I said, within 5 weeks. But typically more it's that if you could look for those signals, like I know, and then that's when I know when to back off. The drift, I think, also looks like when we're feeling like, um, gee, I'm not really getting to do what I really want to do, or what do I really like to do, and I'm not being able to do those things. But again, we kind of give in to what everyone else wants to do or what they would like to do, even if it's something fun, you know. And so we really, yeah, we have to watch out for that. And that's where I'm thinking the yellow light comes on. Like for me, my yellow light is my shoulders get very tight up here. I just feel it all like I'm like this. And that's my signal to, I have to stop. I need to look at my entire calendar for weeks out, my workload, what can I get off my plate as fast as I can, where can I shift things. I go get my massages right away. It's my yellow light, right? So for someone else, maybe it's all of a sudden they notice they're not sleeping good. So pay attention to those, because it helps. If we can pay attention, then we could grab it right then and there and be more proactive. And then we don't go into that deep, deep dive, because it's happened to many women, you know, where they're depressed, they're down, they've got the anxiety, and it gets out of control, and that's just not a good place to be.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I can't help but wonder. So now you already have decades of these practices, but what did a younger version of you look like when you would get into these situations where the yellow light is flickering, but maybe you didn't have the awareness just yet that the signs were there? So how does a woman who might be, call it, still in her early career, know that, hey, there's these signals that I'm not paying attention to, and how does she get to the place where she can start to proactively nurture herself the way you were just talking about, delegating, getting the massage and whatnot?
That's a good question. I'm smiling and I'm kind of laughing, because when you're young in your 20s and 30s, I don't even think you catch that. That is happening, because you have the physical stamina, one thing, and you feel like you are invincible about everything, and you're still having a ton of fun. You probably haven't hit a point where people are dying around you and real life is happening. You know, you're in this wonderful space, you know, when you're young. But it doesn't mean you don't burn out. You know, I was a young mother. I mean, I was married right out of school, 19 years old. You know, that's what we did in those days. We had a house, we had responsibilities. We had kids younger, we were working mothers, you know, I mean, we had a lot on our plate. And so I'm paying attention. I think, you know, some of those same signals are if something doesn't feel right. You know, like maybe you're going along your way merrily, you've got your work, you've got your job, you know, your friendships, you know, maybe you're feeling pretty good about things in general. But it's if there's any kind of feeling of discontent, try to figure out what is it. Are you not getting the satisfaction that you want from your job? Maybe it's you love the job, but the relationships aren't great at work. I've had women complain about that, you know, or they love the friendships at work, but they don't like, you know, what they're being given. So is there any if you feel some kind of like, yeah, I should be happy, but there's something quite not jiving, kind of explore it. And look at it, they could look at their pillars, like the career pillar, financial, family pillar, spiritual, and wellness. That's kind of a cool thing, you know, to look at. And there's something really quick. I don't know if I could show you this really super quick. I know. I'm glad I'm in my office, actually, because these are all things I'm working on for your young person. They can create this. Do a visual for yourself when life works.
Oh, wow.
This I did a couple years ago. I'm going to redo one for myself. But when sit and create when you feel like life is really working, like, wow, I'm fired, I'm jazzed. What's happening? Like, come up with all your circles. Like, for me, it's when I'm my morning rituals, when I'm in full throttle creative mode, when I'm with family, but I branch off of it. What am I doing with family? So if you have a visual of what life really looks like for you when it's working, then when you feel a disconnect and you're like, something's not right, I don't know what it is, go back to your visual. What is not happening in those circles? Are you not doing that? Are you not having time with friends or family? And then you can say, oh, that's what's missing. So what do I need to do about it? Then you can be proactive about it. So that's great if these are tools I've learned after so many years. If young women could learn these tools earlier on, they're going to have, it's going to be so much better. And we weren't taught these things when we were young women. We just weren't, and really getting into it. And so some other signs, so disconnect, I think, is a big one. If you just, again, feel those signs of, boy, it just seemed to be, I'm not as patient, as I normally am, or, again, something's missing, or it could come out in the physical space. So you're paying attention to that. As a young woman, I think also, I do want to say one thought. As a young woman, also, you need to build stamina and some toughness. And I mean this in the kindest way. But, I'm around young people a lot, both in the workplace and my space. I've had young employees. And this whole idea of, I want life perfect and I want complete balance and I'm not going to put in more hours than you asked me to, that is not going to help you when you get older. You have to build some resilience. You have to build some toughness, because that's also why you might be struggling, because you don't know how to push through instead of giving up. Oh, that isn't the way I want it. Oh, they're asking too much of me, so I'm done. I'm out of here. That's not how we build our life, or build the courage and stamina and strength that also helps you achieve your dreams. So you've got to have some toughness, and you've got to have toughness in this world, because it's not easy. So don't back off when you're young. Learn to lean into it and take it on as a challenge. And I'm going to have some grit. Because also then if you're savvy and you want to maybe start your own business, or you want to move up the career ladder, you've got to have some grit. You've got to have some tough skin, because the business world is not always easy, or people aren't always going to say things the way you want them to. Yeah. So, you have to build some of that as well. And then also, like in Red Lipstick On, at the end of almost every chapter, I have something for the younger reader, and I have something for people in the encore years. So I wanted that to be a book for women who 18 to 118, And yeah, the younger, I'm excited. I find young women are bolder, I think, than we were. They are more not afraid to speak up. The fine line is knowing when to not speak up, though. You also still have to have some judgment skills. Like my granddaughter, love her to death. She is mighty. She is strong. She had her first year of college. I love her energy, her passion. She's got leadership skills, but she has no filter. And her mother and I have been telling her forever. And she'll say something about what she told her girlfriend, and we'll be like, Madison. She says, well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And she just needs to know, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, Madison, I tell her, I love that you're a leader and you're such a strong woman, Maddie, but you have to have a filter. Or she'll tell her mother, her Halloween costume, oh, mother, that looks horrible on you. That is the stupidest I've ever seen. I'm like, Madison, I know it's your mother, but you can still be a little kinder and not hurt her feelings.
Yeah.
She's a ball of fire, which will be great in many ways, right? But you gotta also know when to curb it.
It's funny that you bring this up because obviously I wanted to steer this conversation in the way of speaking up and using your voice and boundaries. But
Yes.
the filter concept is interesting because I think back to a lot of women, particularly when they are little girls, they still have that ability to like walk around very unfiltered. I know
Yeah.
that for me, like there are countless stories that my mom will recount and go, thank God eventually you got a filter because before anything that crossed your mind, it was like the mind and the mouth did not have a separation. It was just, it came in and it came out. And she goes, I cannot tell you how many times you've embarrassed me with that. But it also makes me wonder because at some point when we overfilter ourselves because we're
Mhm.
afraid of it,
Yes.
it's another like nuance when we think
Yeah.
about it because what you're saying is maybe don't say every single thought you have to the person, but at what point do you know that you need to speak up? What's your through
Well,
line
it's
for that?
like more of what it is, what to say. It's more of how you say it.
Hmm.
So yes, express your ideas, you want to be open, but you don't have to be brutally open with people, So that's where, again, you know, you have to think about how do I word this? So, because definitely, I'm in line with you of you should tell, say what you need to say, but also that's where people who, it's like, but you think about what you say. And this is everything I've been teaching for 36 years through office dynamics. It's what words are you going to use? Because if you don't say it correctly, that person's going to tune you out right away. So
Yeah.
if you want them to really listen to your message, you do think about how you're going to position it. What words are you going to start with? What are your first two sentences? What's the script? And I have a lot of times I have participants have to script something out. How would you give up word feedback to your boss? You want to tell them about this. How would you actually say it? What are the words you're going to use? So you're going to win people over more and get them to buy into your ideas or really accept what you have to tell them when you think about how you're going to position it.
Mm.
And that's what really smart people do. And I don't mean book smart.
Yeah.
People can have a lot of book knowledge and they don't make it. They blow relationships, or maybe yeah they get things done, but then the person's talking about them behind their back. You know, so that's definitely part of learning how to be bold, how to set your parameters, how to not let everybody run you over, but you do it in a way that you're coming across strong and confident. And you can even do it with a smile on your face. I can be very assertive and have a big smile. But it's the words I'm using, like this is not acceptable to me. We are not going to have this conversation anymore. We're going to move on and talk about such and such.
Yeah.
So that's that control piece, but also then choosing your words carefully. To me, that's always important. And I learned that over the years. Like one word can change the whole meaning or the entire feeling of that situation, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I found this in my personal life recently where I had
Uh-huh.
a situation that came up and I didn't enjoy how it was handled. And I remember sitting there going, do I let this one go or do I say something? And it
Hmm.
was this decision point where I sat there for a couple of hours and I was like, no, I think I should address it. And it's funny because I often think with women, you have to be very cautious about, especially in your interpersonal relationships,
Hmm.
because all of a sudden, when a one issue happens, you have the through line of exactly every little tick that you might have had against this person throughout that relationship
Oh,
that
right.
they might not even be aware of. And
Well,
so I had this moment where I was like, okay, Anita, center. What are you actually upset about? And so I sat there and I was like, okay, well, I don't like how this was handled. I feel like it should have been addressed a little bit differently, especially if you say you value these specific values. So I
Mm-hmm.
drafted a text message and I was like, hey, so this is actually important enough for me to speak up on it. I did not like how this part of this was handled, and this is my perspective. And at the end, it was just, okay, well, thank you for sharing. Here's my perspective on it. And then we were able to kind of agree to disagree
Yeah, yeah.
because still there's those elements of it. But it was interesting because I was thinking about how often people in general in relationship tend to have these disagreements, whether it's with a boss or with a loved one.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, they don't know how to communicate the issue at hand versus
Mhm. Oh, you're right. Yeah,
the whole thing.
right. That's so true. And really, I also did want to mention, now I am not perfect. There are times, believe me, I have blown. I have blown. I'm like, I am so done, and poof, because I can be very fiery as well. I'm Italian. I have quite a temper sometimes. But I also could tell you when I do that, I don't feel great the next day because it's like I should have known better, right? And it maybe didn't come out, the words didn't come out the way I wanted. And then I'm like, oh God, and that person, I'll hear about it forever. So I think this about me. I'm like, well, no, I didn't mean it that way. It just kind of came
It came
out that
out.
way.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh God, okay, Joan. But, we're not perfect and we're not going to, every single time. There are times something might really, get
Erica.
past. Like in my marriage, I was married for 34 years. This is funny. It's not funny, but it's funny. Well, my husband, as you know, passed away, also from pancreatic cancer, your grandfather. And so, but we were together for 34 years. And sometimes he could just get me so mad. I would get so mad. And marriages aren't perfect. You do after a while. You do. And I got my little Italian personality, right? And one night we were sitting there on the couches. This was a while back, and we were having our Jack Daniels and ginger ale moment or whatever, because we'd have a cocktail sometimes together at night, right? I forgot what we were talking about. He just got me so fired up. I took that drink and threw it right in his face and walked out of the room. Now, he would never do that to me. But I was like, I'm so done with you because he could be stubborn sometimes.
Oh man.
So I'm much better now. I don't throw drinks in people's faces. But in my younger years, I was pretty fiery.
Okay, well,
Like,
like fine wine, you've aged with wisdom.
yes, I have calmed down a bit.
Okay, so for those of people listening right now who didn't hear our first conversation, can you share what red lipstick on means to you and how that's turned into a movement?
Yeah, red lipstick on. Wow. Okay, so red lipstick on came about, and I'll do the short version. Came about in 2008 when my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Prior to that, I wore red lipstick a lot. Um, but when my husband had been diagnosed and I started becoming the main caregiver, and it was very, very difficult because I was running my business, still had a business to run, I had a household to take care of, and Dave had to go to California every other week for his chemotherapy treatments. So I would go with him, for a couple days, and then he had some major surgeries, and I'm trying to run the house and things just that needed to be done around the house. I was traveling at the time too with my business then, and still being grandmother and grown kids and all of that, and just doing everything. And after a few months, I just thought, I just want to run away. I'll never forget it. It was at night. It was like maybe 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And I was just thinking, I want to run away from everything and I want to go to an island and not come back. And I'm like, crazy, right? And so a really good friend of mine who worked with me for quite a while through business too. She was a writer and we became good friends, and she knew about my red lipstick. I emailed her. I don't think we had a lot of texting then. I may have, I don't remember, but I was kind of telling her what was going on, and all she did was write back to me, red lipstick on, in big letters.
Yeah.
And that just resonated with me. And all of a sudden I thought, Joan, put your red lipstick on and get to work. Just get to work. Do what you have to do. You can do this. You will manage this. You will figure it out. You will let people help you, because at that time too, I wanted to do everything. I wouldn't let anyone help me with anything. I would make the dinners. I would do everything. I would go pick up the clothes at the dry cleaners when people would say, let me help you, let me help you. So that was part of the red lipstick on moment too, is to delegate, to let people help. I don't have to be superwoman, and so red lipstick on, that was my mantra. To just visualize that I'm putting this on, and red's a very powerful color. There's so much meaning behind the color red, which also I have in the book, and what it means. And so there's definite meaning behind that color, but it was the mindset. And so then moving forward, I would use that mantra even for good things. Let's say there was something I wanted to really initiate in my business, some really cool thing that I wanted to do, but it seemed overwhelming, I would be red lipstick on. Or if I had to step into a difficult conversation, it would be, instead of backing away, red lipstick on, lean into it. So it represents courage. It represents, I'm leading myself. I'm leading boldly, don't wait for others, to help me in this area. Don't wait for others to go to the gym with you, Joan. Just put on your red lipstick and go already, or in my financial area, taking ownership of finances, learning more about it. So red lipstick on can represent so many things in terms of, it's really that mantra. It's our mindset. It's, and a lot of what you talk about, right, Anita, the showing up boldly, living courageously. It's when we choose to live courageously. So that mantra, I've used it now for 15 years. And now I use it even more and more. And as I took on this whole red lipstick on project, the book, we have all our beautiful merchandise line I have the t-shirts and the ball caps. And so that was a massive project. But the movement, it's more about the movement and really wanting women to come together and support each other. And I don't even like the word movement, to be honest. We're using more of, it's a lifestyle, because I feel there are so many women out there talking about, let's create this movement. To me, it's a lifestyle. It's my lifestyle. And I wear it and I live it proudly. And to me, sometimes the movement sounds like it could be temporary too, moving in and out. No, this is a lifestyle. I choose to live the red lipstick on lifestyle. And it's how I think, it's how I show up, it's how I dress, knowing when to dress, which way to dress. I use strategic dressing. It's how I carry myself. It's my spiritual rituals, it's supporting women. It's all about supporting each other and sisterhood and the values that we hold close to each other. And so, then it's become a part of I'm absorbed in it. It's my way of life, the way I think, which even when I started Office Dynamics in 1990, I created a program that is still in existence today called the Star Achievement Series, but it's really a philosophy. It's a way of looking at life. And so that very program became a way of life, a way of being, a way of thinking. It was not a training course, even though people would say, well, that's a training course. Oh, no. This is a philosophy that you live every single day. That's how I feel now with red lipstick. It's a way of life.
I am so enamored by the way you just explained that. Because I think you're right. I've never really stopped to think about like, oh, a movement that makes it so temporary. But you're in the light of living boldly, and you are like a full embodiment of living your life boldly and authentically. I think there's something so beautiful about how that's an actual lifestyle versus just a one and done. I'm clicking into this for the time being just to get some sort of change going, where you're saying, no, I'm going to choose to embody this going forward, and this is how I live my life, this is how I lead my life.
Mhm.
I'm curious though, just because a lot of women don't live authentic lives. And I know this is a heavy question towards the end, but
Okay.
how does a woman know she's making a decision from her authentic self and her actual true alignment versus fear, expectation, or obligation? And if authenticity had a daily practice, what would you think it would be?
These are good questions. Um, so, with your authentic self, this is really good. I, it's a good question because I want to add some context. I feel that the world we live in today, in our society today, especially in the United States, makes women feel like they are less than in every way possible. And so when you see 30-year-olds already starting Botox and 40-year-olds getting facelifts when you don't really need it till you're 80, there's so much pressure on women today. You're not tall enough, you're not thin enough, or you're not wide enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you have too many wrinkles, or you're not whatever enough, or your hair's the not right color. You're supposed to look perfect. I mean, it puts so much pressure. So I view a lot of women who I don't think they are being their authentic selves when I see that outside surface sometimes. And so I think it's that outside pressure, the subliminal messages we get when you go to the supermarket and you see the pictures on the magazine covers for years, right? They all now at least they're showing more full-figured women in advertising, where it was always the twig woman. So all day long we are subliminally being hit with what we should look like, how we should show up. I just go to my gym and the women there, I swear, I'm like, I just want to go poke their booties because it's like, that cannot be real. That is so huge, that cannot be real. I'm sorry, but there are so many of them. Like, how could all these young women all have perfect booties? Like, that did not exist in my day. And it's just like, oh my God, I see it all around me. And so I don't think a lot of women or social media, right? It's what you
Yeah.
should look like. It's how you should dress. Oh, you should have this designer handbag. It's very difficult today. There's just the amount of pressure is tremendous for women. And so I think that's where you really have to say, yes, you might like that. Well, sure, I would love a facelift, but I am not going to go through that. No, thank you. I'm not going to go through the surgery. I'll age gracefully. I think you have to be really comfortable in saying, do I truly, truly want that? If I make that change, is it truly going to make me happy? Or am I just feeling pressured by society or the outside world? Or it could even be your husband saying, you need a boob job, you need to go do that. You need bigger boobs. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Thank you very much. I like what I've got. Thank you. you know? So you have to evaluate, you know, is that what you truly like, even in choosing your clothes, right? Are they authentically you? Or is it what you believe you should have? Because then when we can live that way, then obviously we're going to be happier. We're going to feel more aligned with our true selves. So we're going to make better decisions. And so the question is, yes, like I said, when you look at those particular things, like job hopping, is a big thing today, especially with a lot of the younger generation. They're used to hopping jobs every couple years. But sorry, I gotta say it. I say it in the real world. But have you looked at what the negativity of that? If I'm hiring, I'm a CEO of a company, do you think I want to see every 2 years you've moved somewhere? No. That shows me you can't stick with something. I don't want a revolving door in my company. So you've got to like really honestly look at these things. Are they helping you? But it depends on your goals too. I would say look at what are your goals, and maybe again going to the 5 pillars, what are your goals in each of those pillars? And then and what are your values? I think that's a really good question, Anita. Like if we can get to our values, what do we value? What's important to us? Then we could also make decisions that are aligned with our values versus what other people want us to do. I think that's another good place to look, right?
Absolutely. Beautiful answer. Well, I
Are
have a
you
couple
answering the
more.
question?
Before we get to the end of this is so
Good.
good. But I'm curious because obviously you have wisdom. What did life have to strip away for you before you became the woman you are today? And what do you want women in their excuse me, tongue tied.
Yeah.
What do you want women in their 20s to who are misunderstanding about confidence that women later in life would understand?
Hmm. So what stripped away at me, like what
What did you have to strip away
down, and then how did
before
I
you
build up
became the woman you are
who you
today?
are today? Oh yeah, I was brought to my knees so many times through things I hope people never have to experience. Major illnesses, surgeries. My mother was a severe manic depressive. When I was just 19 years old, and watching everything she went through. And at that time, they didn't handle manic depression like they do today. And you could talk about it today. You didn't talk about it then. She was locked up behind doors, in a room with just a bed. I mean, I saw horrific things. So that's really, it started early for me. My first husband turned out to be physically abusive. I mean, I started experiencing hard life early as a 19-year-old. And so badly in love, but he had a bad temper, and I had to have the courage to walk out with nothing but the clothes on my back. So there were several things that, again, were very difficult for me, very challenging for me. Um, and then my major, of course, crises that went on later. But I guess what I learned was to, yes, I could be the victim at first and be brought to my knees and feel like just that's it. But over time, I learned to get myself back up faster. So to tell myself I can do this, I'm strong. I'm also um, a fighter. Like I don't give up easily. I really don't, even if it's a cause I believe in. So it doesn't even have to be anything devastating. I mean, starting my business, 35 years ago, I created a niche that never even existed. I pioneered an industry, admin training. So it could be a good thing too, but it was that idea of in my head, I am a fighter. I want to be that victor over a circumstance. So having that attitude early on, you're going to hit barriers, you're going to hit obstacles even early on, in your career, maybe through jobs or things like that, or with family members. So it's really what you tell yourself, and being able to tell yourself, I can do this. I can work through this. I may not have all the answers. So the other part is don't feel like you have to have all the answers, but at least go to people, be authentic, be real. And the other thing I had that I do want to mention is I didn't believe I knew everything at all when I was in my 20s. I didn't act like I knew everything. One thing I did do is I looked at people who were older than me, even 10 years older, 20 years older. I was a sponge. When I was in the workplace, I watched all those leaders, all those managers. What did they do? How did they do it? I never had this attitude of I know it all. And I see a lot of that too in younger people. Oh, I know it, or I could search it, I could Google it, I could AI it. which is true. We can, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just that believer of when you're young, be that sponge. Look at the people who you admire and their qualities and what do they do well, and then you want to mirror that. So that's what I do. Don't be a copycat, but mirror it. What is it? How do they do it? How do they handle those challenges? And then you've got to tell yourself within, I'm smart. I'm smart. I can learn even if I don't know the answer, but having that belief and faith in yourself, you can learn. And you have to want to. You have to want to, right? And then you start to grow and you start to get stronger and you start, like I said, you've got to have that little tougher skin. You've got to build some resiliency. And that takes you a long way. And so what happens then when you hit obstacles or barriers, you're going to come back sooner. You're going to bounce back sooner. And I think just know that you're going to be knocked to your knees, because I always say if, so here's the thing. I teach one of my classes. We talk about courage. We talk about intimidation and things like that. And I'll never forget this. I was talking about intimidation. What are the things that intimidate you? How do we overcome that? So one of the ladies in the workshop, it was in person, this was years ago, and she says, well, nothing ever intimidates me. And I said, well, then you're not stretching out. You're not giving me gifts. Everybody should be intimidated at some point.
Yeah.
Or that means you're not even trying, sweetheart. I didn't say sweetheart, but does that make sense, right?
Absolutely.
If you never feel any intimidated, if you never feel scared or nervous, you're not testing the waters enough.
Yeah, you're operating out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, you're not
Actually,
taking risks, so you're not going to grow. If you have these great visions when you're young of what you want to do, that's how you're going to grow.
Absolutely. I just actually did my first large keynote. And when I said the yes to that,
Yay!
when the offer came in, it was like a 45-minute speaking spot. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
I've never done 45 minutes of me just straight talking before. But I remember just going, I don't even have a talk, but okay. Like nothing outlined. And
Yeah.
so
Oh,
over the
good.
course, I like put it together. But I remember thinking, my God, am I really uncomfortable with this? Because you had such a mix. It was like 50 different women who were all pouring into different
Oh,
topics.
wow.
And I was like, you have people who've been making millions and have been at this for decades. And then you have me who's, I wouldn't say new, but
Yeah.
speaking is a newer facet of it for me.
Sure.
And I remember thinking, well, you said you wanted to start speaking and you have an opportunity. So I guess we're just going to figure it out. Because there's no such a thing as ready. There's only your
Yeah.
willingness to stretch.
Oh, you're right. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's a very true point. And then, that's what I was doing all in my, younger years, in my 20s and my 30s, willing to take on that higher level job, and stretch myself. Started out as a secretary, but I was really eager to move up in that profession as fast as I could. I wanted to work for those higher level executives. So when that door opened, taking on being a senior level executive assistant, and I didn't know, but I stepped into that because that's what I wanted. I could see that vision. But again, I also had a lot of mentors around me. I would look to people who were doing what I wanted. When I started my training business, I knew nothing about speaking and training. I just wanted to help people. So I had mentors. I found people who were successful speakers. We would go to lunch. They would mentor me. And then, like you said, you just have to do it. You just have to do it, right? And jump in
Absolutely.
and
So,
grow.
as we wrap up for the last couple of questions before we hit the quick fire, I feel like I keep extending this one out just because it's so good. But you've
Thank you.
had this idea about putting your red lipstick on for years now, and for the first time, you've actually built it into something women can walk through in a tangible way outside of the book with the launch
Yeah.
of your red lipstick on course. What made you feel like this is the right moment to put it out, and what are you hoping a woman actually gets out of it?
It's the right moment to put it on and writing the book because the modern woman is faced with so much more than we were faced with before. Like Red Lipstick On's been on my mind for 13 years. And so I just thought that's it. The time is right. The world we live in, the world women live in today, it is a different world. We still have the same issues. We still have a lot of the same frustrations and that. But today's world, it demands so much more. And then you, of course, have all the impact of the social media. And then even your kids who maybe are all over social media and you're trying to deal with that. And time does actually move faster, definitely truer. And so, and women, I could just see them struggling out there. They're just struggling to how do I maneuver? What do I do? How do I truly live my authentic life? Because I am tired of taking care of everybody else. My turn, my turn. So that's, to me, it was the right timing. I had heard enough stories. It's like, it's time to get this message out. And also, I did have to go through what I went through all these 13 years to be able to write the book I wrote today. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't go through all of that. And then, so the timing, and then again, looking at the younger generation coming in and what do they need? What advice would I give them? Because I care about younger people. I really do. And I don't want them to see or buy into beliefs that really aren't true anymore. You have to break the old beliefs. And that's why I'm breaking the beliefs about what life looks like in your 70s. It does not at all look like when my past years. You know, I'm done. These are my encore years. I've got so much more to do. Let's shift that thinking. I don't want young people to think, all right, well, yeah, you're 70, you slowed down. No way am I slowing down. I'm retired, isn't in my word. I signed up for dance classes the other day. I can stay on the dance floor with my 20-year-old grandkids. No, we are not like that today. You don't shrivel up and sit on a rocking chair, you know. So I want young people to know they also are creating the story. Right?
Absolutely.
They also can be saying, this is how women live today. This is how we live today. Boldly, abundantly, you know, with radiantly, you know, and shining. So, and then were you asking about the course? Sorry, I get all caught up. What was the second question?
Yeah.
The course.
What are you hoping that the woman who takes on the course actually gets out of it?
Oh, I gets their blueprint. Actually, their blueprint. I wanted to set this up where I have the 8 video modules, and I strategically designed this in a way I want women to really be able to focus in on really thinking about their identity. So they're writing the blueprint for their life. There's questions in here, but it's about really taking that look at yourself and who are you and who do you want to be, and really framing your identity. What is it? It is about courage. I want you to build your courage and your confidence and know what your authenticity looks like. It's about, yes, that whole, I want them to learn about energy sustainability, learning how to be bold, knowing the words of what to say. I get so excited because there's so much in here. I want women to, again, learn how to, you know, show up with confidence and presence. Confidence is a big thing. Lack of confidence is a big thing for women. But really, there's a lot of reflection time in here. It's awareness. The course is going to make you really aware, and maybe where you sit and think, am I doing that? Do I not do that? What hot buttons, you know, if I'm talking about something, is that a hot button for you? Oh, Joan's daring me in some area of my life, and I don't think I want to look at that. Well, yeah, let's look at it, okay? So we could sort through it all and get your voice and the voice that you want to use. You know, there's things in here too, like we could be over-explaining. Women, we over-explain. You know, we don't need to do that. And so finding the words, what to say, how to say it. And the other thing that I think is really important in this course that was really important to me is how you make other people, this is important actually, how do you make other people comfortable with your growth? Because when we grow and we start to do things that we didn't do before, other people, they're either going to be excited for you and support you and cheer you on, or there are people who are going to say, well, you're just getting a little too big for your britches. Look at you, Miss Confidence. Or you're getting too assertive. Or because they're not used to seeing you this way. So when you get confidence, it's going to change. You're going to change. It's going to change interactions. And some people aren't going to like it. Or you start setting boundaries and that person was used to just snowing you over. Now they're going to be like, oh my God, they're going to be startled. What's going on here? You mean you're actually setting a boundary with me? It causes confusion. It does not mean you should back off. It does not mean you back off. So in the course, you teach other people how to work with that. I could appreciate it. So I share a perfect little story example with you. Because it happened to me when I started my training business. So when my husband married me, I was a secretary. I was Italian. I was a very full-figured Italian woman. I could make pasta and do all of that. I had an 8 to 5 job. Well, sometimes 8 to 7. But then I started my training business in 1990 and speaking. And our kids were still younger, I don't know, 12, 11, whatever. And for a while, I was just doing local work. Well, then I started traveling for my business. And my husband didn't like that so much because then he had to deal with the kids and I was gone. So I'd be like traveling and off at a hotel. And one night he called me, he had to go to the school and something happened and he had to pick up the kids. And I said, well, yeah, welcome to what I do all the time. Like, really? Come on, man up. So there was this conversation after a little while about, well, you're not the woman now that I marry. I thought I had this Italian wife who's going to, cook and just be a secretary, and now you're doing your business. He was not a supporter in the beginning. He then became my biggest supporter. And I remember this conversation, and I said, I can't go back. I can't go back. And if you snip my wings, it will end in a divorce. I can't go back to who I was. I'm not that person anymore. And I need to fly and I need to spread my wings. Mm. And he just had to get used to it. To me, it's like you get used to it or I'm going to shrivel up. And then for sure, I believe. I have to do this. I knew it in my soul. I knew it in my spirit. I knew God was guiding me into my next work, that I would do on this earth.
Wow. And
eventually he became my biggest supporter when he saw money starting to come in.
Of course.
But then he saw like people really needed this. Big corporations were calling me. Then he'd be like, well, what are you doing home? Shouldn't you be on the road? Like, get out there, go, But that's what I mean by holding holding that ground, learning how you do help others. And if also being willing to say if they can't accept that, like if you start to set boundaries with someone else, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a neighbor, and they walk away, you already up front, you've got to be willing to say, fine, they walk away, but I am not changing who I am becoming. I'm doing this for me.
That is an incredible way to end this episode. First, I want to take a moment to talk about, you speak about being bold, but to actually be in front of your husband and declare boldly that I am not giving up on my dream. And if you want me to give up and return to the person I no longer am, it will cause a severance of our marriage. That's a very big, bold statement. And it just also shows how in alignment you were already starting to feel that you were able to stand up against what the norm was. Eventually he did turn around, so that's a great part of the story. But I think it's just so incredibly brave of you, especially when you consider the factors of you had children, you had a marriage that you had already been living with for so long, that you had this routine. And so it shows like when we talk about being brave and bold and owning our fullest expression, sometimes you have to allow yourself to speak up for that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
And that's, yeah, knowing, right, what that is for you again.
absolutely.
Because I really truly believe, we all have a mission on this earth. We're here for a purpose. We all have something. We may not know what it is yet. If you're younger, you may not know that purpose or mission, or it could change, as time evolves too. Like, oh, this is now at this stage. Here's my mission. But, life is so precious. It just really is. And it's your life. It's your life. So we need to make it what we want it to be. It's this crazy journey we go on,
So, ending off with our quick fire that I'm all about.
Oh no, I forgot about that. No, I forgot. Oh no, here we go. Oh no.
So, think one word to one sentence. This is probably going to be the shortest part of all your answers.
I
But
remember now.
whatever is the first thing that comes to mind. So, what is a word for your current season now?
Bold.
Love it. A book outside of your own every woman should read.
Oh no. Oh, it has to be that one. Oh dear. You got me stumped on that one. A lot of the books I read I read Joel Osteen books. I'm serious. Any of Joel Osteen books are fabulous.
Incredible. Which one's your favorite?
Oh, you would ask me. I have so many because I buy like everything that comes out.
I feel like he has a new book out every year. He's going
Oh,
after the John Maxwell title.
he rolls them out so fast. I don't buy every one of them, but I really look for, ones that I buy most of them. But I will tell you the story that impressed me the very most, which probably a lot of women will not read, but if they are career women and working, they definitely should, is How to Be Like Walt.
Mm.
That story about Walt Disney had the most incredible, made the most incredible impression on me. And how he was such a visionary and never, ever, ever gave up no matter what came his way. And you learn about leadership and you learn about opposite personalities and you learn about possibility living, like your dreams. He was the biggest dreamer, and it's amazing how he didn't let negativity bring him down. And so, just like I said, especially if you're a career woman, you definitely need to read that book. There's so many lessons in it, and I go back to that book a lot.
What's your current favorite song to dance to?
Uh, Photo ID. Have you ever heard that? It's such a fun, cute song. I love any Bruno. Well, I love Bruno Mars's new song, though. I Just Might. That's just the cutest, great song. I love it.
Okay, so I have to look up both of those songs because apparently you
Photo
are more
ID
with
is a
it.
cute, my granddaughter got me onto to that song, and I love it. It's just a happy song. It's a happy photo
Beautiful.
ID.
And what is one thing women need to stop apologizing for?
One thing. I've got about 10. No. Stop apologizing. Wow. Golly, you have tricky questions. One thing you need to stop apologizing for. You don't want to cook dinner anymore. I am not cooking anymore. Too bad. Feed yourselves. No. apologizing for who you are and the choices you make. You don't need to defend, your choices or your decisions.
Beautiful.
Don't, yeah.
Well, Joan, thank you so much for this conversation. What stands
You
out to me the
always get
most,
me at the end. You always, now I
I
gotta go home and look at my books.
well, what stood out to me the most is that if we look at it, finding our voice and our authentic selves is not actually about becoming someone new. It's about remembering and returning to the woman we were before fear, expectation, and life
Yeah.
has convinced us otherwise. And confidence, even though we didn't really go in on all that completely, isn't actually something we chase. It's something that naturally emerges when we begin trusting ourselves. And so, if this conversation resonated with you, Joan's Red Lipstick On course is officially going to be live, and the link will be in the show notes. And this is exactly the kind of next step we've been talking about all episode, not becoming someone else, but returning to being more fully you with some real support along the way. If this landed for you, share it with a woman who needs the reminder. Tag Joan on Instagram and me and let me know what stood out. Your next level isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to becoming fully yourself.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And can I tell you, I have a gift for each person, a free gift.
Absolutely, go
If
ahead.
they want it. If they liked all of this too, we wanted to offer a free audio version of my chapter 2 in the book Red Lipstick On, because that's where I talk about red, what the color really represents, how red lipstick on came about, what the mantra means. So if they would like that, they can go to joanburge.com/audio. And
Beautiful.
I did it in my own voice. I did not hire someone to do the voice. I'm reading the actual book myself.
Beautiful. Well, that will also be linked down in the show notes. And thank you so much again. And I look
I
forward
had
to
so
you
much
guys.
fun with you as always. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.